Welcome everyone to the last video of chapter 6, and we're going to talk about the measures of central tendency here, what they are, what they represent, and how we can use them to represent data values. So the measures of central tendency is actually just a term for three things together: the mean, the median, and the mode. And the mean is something that you all already know of. The mean in Dutch het gemiddelde. We, for example, use when we want to calculate the mean of your numbers, right, of your grades. If you got 6 test grades and they all just count once, right? You can add them up, divide them by the total amount of numbers or grades that you had, and you find your average number. So the mean, you could say, is the average of all the numbers, and you can calculate it by taking the sum of all the data values divided by the number of data values. This is the most common one, not always the best one though. For example, if I take a look at all the people in this picture here, then we have a person that is 4, 3, 9, 1, it's on its hat, 6, 10, and 100 years old. If I would now ask you to calculate the average age of all those persons here, well, the average here, the mean, is going to be 19 years old. Well, that's actually not a good representation of those data values, right? Because now you expect 7 people that are around 19 years old, but actually 6 of them are a lot younger, and 1 of them is a lot older, 100 years old. So in this data set, taking the mean is not the best representation, doesn't give you a good impression. Here, we're going to use a so-called median. And we in the English book of number space already know the median as the zwaartelijn, but here in Dutch it's also being translated as the mediaan. So median can mean two things. We're either talking about the zwaartelijn in a triangle, or we're talking about the median if we're talking about statistics like this. And how can we calculate the median? Well, first of all, when do you use the median? The median is oftentimes used when the data values have an outlier, an extreme or large small data value that would oftentimes gravely affect a mean. If you use a median, you will counteract that. What you will do, you write down your data values in order from smallest to largest. So here, 1, 3, 4, 6, 9, 10, 100. 1, 3, 4, 6, 9, 10, 100. What is now the median? The median is the middle data value. And here, if I have an odd amount of data values, that's easy, right? That's just 6, because there are 3 to the left and 3 to the right. So here the median is 6, and I think that's a much better representation of this data than 19, right? So what you can say is that the median is the middle number of all your data values, and therefore it's important to put them in order first. Also, here we had an odd number, but what if we have an even number? Then there is no middle one, right? If you would write down those numbers here with 23 as well, in order from smallest to largest, we have 4, 10, 11, 13, 16, 19, 20, 23. We have 2 middle numbers. No problem. Take those 2 numbers, add them up, and divide them by 2. So you can say you take the mean of those 2 numbers. Right? Je neemt het gemiddelde van de 2 middelste cijfers. And those 2 are the 2 middle numbers because here there are 3 to the left of 13 and 3 to the left of 16. So if you have an odd number of data values, it's just the middle number. If you have an even number, then you have 2 numbers that you have to add up and divide by 2. Here they say the median is the middle data value, where the data is listed from smallest to biggest. And now the easiest one is yet to come, the so-called modes, in Dutch the modus, because the modus, or the mode I should say, is just the data value with the highest frequency. That just means that is the number that occurs most often. So for example here, well, this is already quite a funny one. If there is no number that occurs most, for example here all numbers only occur once, then there is no mode. But let's say we also had, for example, this. Let's say, no, let's design one myself. Let's say we have 4, 4, 6, 7, 8, 8, 8. What is the mode here? 8, right? So the mode here is 8 because the mode occurs the most. If we had this 4, 4, 6, 7, 8, 8, then there is no mode because 4 and 8 occur both just as often. They say if there are 2 or more numbers with the same highest frequency, there is no mode. Can occur. The modes, the mean and the median together are what we call so-called measures of central tendency, different ways to find the average of a set of data. And in Dutch days are called centrummaten. And the first exercise that you're going to do are just calculating means, medians, and modes of numbers. For a mean, add them all up, divide them by the total number of them. So here you add them all up and divide them by 10 because there are 10 data values. The mean here is 6.7. For the median, first put them in order from smallest to largest. There's an even number of data values, so take the two middle ones, 6 and 7, add them up and divide them by 2. So here the median is 6.5. Is there a mode here? Well, 6 occurs 3 times, 7, 2, 9, 2. Hey, 6 occurs 3 times, so here the mode is 6. That's it. This is the backbone of this paragraph. In the next two theory bits, we're going to apply those in different sort of exercises. We're going to combine them, for example, with frequency tables. If I have a theory like this and I now want to calculate stuff in this frequency table, we can calculate different kind of things. The first thing that I maybe want to know is, well, how many number of well, first take a look at what this is. Ilva kept track of how many emails she received per day. How many days are there in total that she kept the score? 18 plus 14 plus 9 plus 11 plus 6 plus 6 gives me 64 days. Not the amount of emails, right? Because that would be 18 times 3 plus 14 times 4 plus 9 times 5. Now the number of days. That's just adding the frequencies. We call that the so-called total frequency, the totale frequentie. The absolute frequency of a data value, you can say, de absolute frequentie betekent hoe vaak komt er nou een datapunt, een waarnemingsgetal voor. Het waarnemingsgetal 5 komt 9 keer voor. Waarnemingsgetal 6 komt 11 keer voor. 7 komt 6 keer voor. Absoluut, als in het is een getal. Komt 5 keer voor, komt 6 keer voor, komt 7 keer voor. Of sorry, het getal 5 komt 9 keer voor, 6 komt 11 keer voor, 7 komt 6 keer voor. Moet je wel goed zeggen natuurlijk. The relative frequency, we're going to divide, for example here, for the number of students 5, we're going to divide the absolute frequency by the total frequency. We're going to compare them. So relative frequency, the relatieve frequentie, is the absolute frequency divided by the total frequency times 100. And then you can see, for example, 14.1% of the days she received 5 emails. If you get questions like this, you can now also calculate the mean. What is the mean? Well, then we first have to find how many emails she received in total. That's 18 times 3, plus I go back to my pointer. That's 18 times 3, plus 14 times 4, plus 9 times 5, plus 11 times 6, etc., etc. That is the total amount of emails she received. And the total amount of the mean of this amount is that divided by the total amount of days. Dus ik ga eerst berekenen hoeveel e-mails ik nou in totaal heb gekregen. Dat is over alle dagen. Hoeveel heb ik er nou op één dag gekregen? Nou ja, het aantal dagen had ik al berekend eerder. Dat was 64. Dus deel het aantal e-mails door het aantal dagen. So the mean here is going to be around 4.86 emails per day. Right? And that's it. One weird thing here, by the way, they say number of students. That should be number of emails, right? Maybe that confused you a bit. I don't know why this is number of students. Number of emails. Number of emails and the frequency. Weird error also. So let's say you have a question like this. Rose has a weather station. You use it to measure the wind strength at 12 noon every day in the month of November. She puts the results in a frequency table. So apparently there is one day that there is wind strength 0, 2 days with wind strength 1, 4 days with wind strength 2, etc. One stormy day, 1 day being 8, 0 days that there was wind strength 6. Calculate the mean of this. To calculate the mean here, we first are going to find the total frequency. Well, she did this for every day of the month, so that are 30 days. You can also just add them up, what? 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 7 plus 10 plus 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus 0. Then you get 30 days. That's the total frequency. Well, if we're now going to calculate the mean wind strength, we're going to do 1 times 0 plus 2 times 1 plus 4 times 2 plus 7 times 3 plus 10 times 4 plus 4 times 5 plus 0 times 6 plus 1 times 7 and 1 times 8 divided by the total frequency, 30. That gives me the mean, that is approximately 3.5. So in all those days, the mean wind strength is 3.5. Okay? On what percentage of days was the wind strength at 12 noon higher than the mean? Op welk percentage dagen was de windkracht nou groter dan het gemiddelde? Nou, hoger dan het gemiddelde betekent 4 en hoger in dit geval. How many days are that? 10 plus 4 plus 1 plus 1 days. So that means 16 days. What percentage is that of all days? There are 30 days. So 16 divided by 30 times 100% gives me a percentage of around 53.3%. Calculate the relative frequency of the data value 3. Hoe vaak komt het nummer 3 nou voor als ik het vergelijk met alle nummers die voorkomen? How many times does the number 3 occurs? 7. So now divide 7 by the total frequency, 30. 7 divided by 30 is approximately 22.3% if you multiply by 100% as well, of course. These are means in those tables. What we can also do, oh yeah, there's the last things to receive. One more thing, you will get a question in your project about midpoints of class intervals. And I'm not going to do this exercise because of course it's not in your project, but you do need to know what midpoints of class intervals are. Midpoints of class intervals, or so-called klassenmiddens in Dutch, means that if I want to work with frequency distributions like this, the frequency 3 for all numbers 3 up to 4, I don't know exactly which numbers that are. That can be, for example, a 3, and a 3. It can also be a 3.9, a 3.8, and a 3.2. To still kind of work with it, we estimate that if we want to work with this, then we are going to work with the midpoints of the class intervals. So you can just assume that in this class interval, all numbers are 3.5. And in this class interval, all numbers are 4.5. And in this class interval, they're all 5.5. Of course, not true, but that way we can kind of estimate what, for example, the mean grade is. Okay, this will come back in the project as well. Last thing, median and mode from a frequency table. I'm going to do this rather quickly. I'll skip this one. Let's say you have a frequency table. Number of visits to the cinema and the frequency. 3, 6, 4, 16, yada yada. So once again, that means there are 31 days that there are 5 numbers of visits. 25 days there are 6 numbers of visits, etc. Calculate the mean number of cinema visits this year. Round to on 1 decimal place the mean number of the cinema visits. That's what we did in the previous thing, right? So we do again this very large calculation. First, calculate the total frequency, add all the frequency numbers up, and now the mean is 6 times 3 plus 14 times 4 plus 31, yeah, etc. I'm not going to repeat myself yet again. It's right there. Put it into your calculator, divide it by 102, and the mean is 5.6. This was the previous theory. How can we now calculate the median and the mode as well? Well, the median means the middle number, you can say, right? But what's the middle number here? Well, what you can say here is that the total frequency is 102. That's an even number. So I have to take a look at the 2 middle numbers, which are 51 and 52. Because 51, there are 50 numbers which are lower, and 52, there are 50 numbers which are higher. So those 2 are the 2 middle numbers. And divided by 2. What is the 51st and the 52nd number? Well, they are kind of in order here, right? So the first 6 are 3, then the next 14 are 4, so that's already 20. And then 31 numbers are 5. Hey, 51. So the 51st number is 5, which means automatically the 52nd number here is 6. So 5 plus 6 divided by 2, and the median here is 5.5. Okay? So first of all, know what the total frequency is, then figure out how many total frequencies do you have. If it's an even number, you have to take the 2 middle numbers and divide it by 2. If it was an odd number, then just take the middle number, right? Then I would just take 51, because then there are 50 lower and 50 higher. The mode is just which one occurs the most. So just take a look in this table. The 5 occurs the most, so the mode here is 5. The mode is just always the easiest one in actually all exercises. If you want the mode, okay, which one occurs most? Median is more difficult, mean can be tricky sometimes as well. And that's it. Finally, hopefully this helps you a bit with your project. If you have any questions in particular, ask them during the lessons, and I will wish you good luck with finishing your project as well. Bye bye.